Charging into battle astride a mount takes a certain skill and training that very few in the fighter class possess, but the Cavalier is all about it. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner. Welcome back to the RPG Daily, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. Like I said, today we're talking about the Cavalier martial archetype of the fighter class for Dungeons & Dragons. The Cavalier is a mounted combatant. If you've seen old pictures of knights in shining armor charging in against dragons and some such, those are basically Cavaliers. They excel at both offensive and defensive capabilities using their mount and their mobility provided by that mount, and they also kind of fit in social situations. You see, Cavaliers would have been raised among people or societies where horses and mounted animals were more common, where the common, normal, average citizen might not have access to those kind of things. So the Cavaliers tend to be from a more noble, quote, noble stock, or a wealthy stock, which means in social situations they would also have been pretty learned about that and being able to understand how to compose themselves in those situations. Let's just cut to the chase and dive into what we get as a Cavalier. At level 3, you're going to gain a new proficiency. This can reflect your skill with animals, or it can reflect your skills in social situations, either one that you're going to choose. So at this level, you're going to gain a new skill proficiency in either animal handling, history, insight, performance, or persuasion. You get to pick one of those and you get that skill proficiency for free. Also at level 3, you're getting the feature Born to Saddle, which I think they could have come up with a better name for this, but this feature really ties into the mounted combat side of the Cavalier. First off, if you're ever in a situation where you could get knocked off of your mount, you get to roll those saving throws at advantage. So knocking you off of your mount is a lot more difficult. At the same time, if you do get knocked off of your mount and the fall is less than 10 feet, you get to just land on your feet rather than being knocked prone, and to mount or dismount your mount, you get to spend only 5 feet of movement instead of the standard 1/2 of your movement. Also at level 3, you get the feature Unwavering Mark. This is similar to Hunter's Mark, and it's a kind of an invisible mark you put on a target creature. When you're in combat situations, if you hit a creature, you can put a mark on them, this unwavering mark. And this kind of causes them to have to fight you instead of others, so it can be used to kind of control the flow of combat in that situation. But this mark will end if another creature puts a mark on that creature. I guess you can't have more than one mark on a single creature at a time. It also ends if you are incapacitated at any point. What this does to the creature is while they are within 5 feet of you, they have disadvantage on any attacks against other creatures that are not you. So basically you're taunting them to attack you and only you. If they do attack another creature and are able to successfully hit them and deal damage, you get an extra bonus ability with this. On your next turn, as a bonus action, you can attack that creature who has the mark on them. This attack has advantage on the roll, and if you do hit them, you deal an extra bit of damage. The extra damage is equal to 1/2 of your fighter level. The interesting thing about this Unwavering Mark is that you can have it on multiple targets at once. You just can't have one target with multiple marks. You can use this Unwavering Mark a number of times equal to your Strength ability score modifier per day, and after a long rest, all your expended charges are restored. So this means if your strength is a 16, you would have 3 chances to use this Unwavering Mark, which means potentially, hypothetically speaking, you could mark 3 different enemies in combat at the same time. At level 7, you're going to get the ability Warding Maneuver, which is not to be confused with the other maneuvers from the Battle Masters, which we talked about last week. This one is very specific to the Cavalier, and it allows you to defend yourself or an ally from incoming attacks. While you're in combat, if you're holding a melee weapon and you see an attack, it can either hit you or an ally within 5 feet of you. If the attack hits, you can, as a reaction, roll 1d8 and add that number onto the target's armor class. If the attack still hits that target, even with the armor class boost, that target also gains resistance to the damage from that attack. This warding maneuver can be used a number of times equal to your Constitution ability score modifier in a day, and you regain all your spent uses after a long rest. So similar to the Unwavering Mark, you have a certain amount of uses based on your ability scores that you regain at the end of a long rest. This one, though, really comes into play in an intense combat situation. You can defend allies. So, for example, a Constitution score of 20 means your ability score modifier is 5, which means you would have 5 uses of this warding maneuver in a combat situation per day. I think that's a pretty powerful ability right there. At level 10, you get the ability Hold the Line. Hold the Line is a more crowd control type ability. It feels a little like Sentinel, and we'll get into that. When you are in combat and a creature who is within your reach moves 5 feet, even if they stay within your reach, kind of moving around potentially, you then get to attack them with an opportunity attack as your reaction. If you successfully hit that creature with your opportunity attack, then their speed is reduced to 0 until the end of their turn. So this could potentially put you in a spot where you can hold the line, keep all your enemies in a single area while you just hit them as need be with your reactions. And this gets even more powerful a little later on, as we'll discuss. At level 15, you're getting the feature Ferocious Charger. Now, this sounds like you would have to be mounted, but you really don't. It is designed to take advantage of your speed and mobility in combat and just let you hit people a little harder. If you're in combat and you move more than 10 feet towards a target, then make an attack. If that attack hits, then that creature then has to make a strength saving throw. If they fail their strength saving throw, then they are knocked prone. This doesn't say anything about having to be on your mount, you just have to move that 10 feet. So it's kind of like charging in and bashing someone with a shield or using the momentum to shove them to the ground. The DC for that saving throw is going to be 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your strength ability score modifier. And you're able to use this ability once per turn. Not just a couple times per day, but once per turn in combat. And last, at level 18, you're going to get Vigilant Defender. This is the one that I say supercharges your Hold the Line feature from a little bit ago. When you gain this feature, you gain a new special reaction. A reaction that can be used once per every other character's turn, just not your own. What this means is, while normally you get 1 reaction per round of combat that you have to deal with, this one potentially means you can get reaction after reaction after reaction. Except on your turn, you can't take your turn and then have this reaction, but you have another reaction you can use for that. This one is just a special reaction. You cannot use this special reaction and your regular once per round reaction on the same turn, which is why I say after your turn you could just use another regular reaction if you have it. But this reaction is limited to only making opportunity attacks against a target. This is where I think this supercharges the Hold the Line ability. I think this is designed to get in close with several enemies, perhaps as they try to move around you on their turns. You can keep using your reaction to hold them in place, amplifying the effectiveness of holding the line from 1 target, for example, per round, up to all of the targets per round, keeping them in their spot, especially if you get in a really close location around them, or if you have something like a polearm or some longer reach weapon. That also increases the effectiveness of Hold the Line. So Vigilant Defender is just a really good way to amplify your combat abilities at high levels. As you can see, this Cavalier archetype doesn't have a whole lot of options like the Arcane Archer or the Battlemaster did. It's very straightforward in how it works, but it does have some maneuvers, some things that kind of help it stand out among the others. Using abilities like the Ferocious Charger to knock enemies prone is a really good way to keep things under control. You keep your enemies down, they lose time and movement to have to get up, keeps them in one position. And of course, taking Hold the Line and powering that with Vigilant Defender at higher levels lets you really just keep everything right where you want them to be. This means you, as this Cavalier, is the ultimate in crowd control on the battlefield. I also think the Unwavering Mark is a really good way to keep people attacking you versus your enemies, especially if you're with a bunch of lower HP squishy caster types. Taking that, having them attack you, and then also adding in your warding maneuver to protect yourself. You got some options here that can keep you alive, keep your allies alive, and really annoy your enemy. As I was reading through this, I was thinking, I already get annoyed when my players, do stunning strikes as monks or stuff like that. This one is one of those classes that I would really find myself frustrated with, especially at the higher levels. I would have to work extra hard to figure out ways to get around these maneuvers or lean into them and let the players have their fun keeping all the enemies in one spot. That's kind of how I feel about this martial archetype, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what you see on the channel, I invite you to hit the subscribe button and hit that like button on the video to help it just get boosted a bit into the algorithm. If you want to come talk D&D with us, I have a Discord channel. The server link is in the description of this video. And also, if you need some miniatures, so maybe you like tabletop miniatures, check out my Etsy shop, also linked in the description. I sell miniatures, I 3D print and sell them to you. I really like the designs of the models that I found to put on the site, so if you check it out, all that goes to help the channel and keeping these lights on, basically. So I appreciate that. Anyways, I've been Richard. Thanks for watching.